So, guys, after the USA disaster, which has destroyed the Democrats' reputation nationwide, the fact they're doubling down with their new DNC leadership, and that the fact that Kamala Harris is leading in all of the primary polling for the nomination in 2028, I'm going to show you a battleground map as of right now where everything stands between the two parties. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another video with On Point Politics. Hit the like button and subscribe if you want more content just like this. Looking at some of the states, it's really interesting to see how, the map changes every cycle. Usually, the same map never occurs twice in US history at all. So at least one state flip is going to happen in 2028. And usually, when the incumbent party, VP, tends to end up winning the election, they usually do a little bit worse in the electoral college, meaning there is a state that flips back. However, with Trump being popular right now and the positive favorables, and Vance even polling sometimes even more popular than Donald Trump, it's fairly possible that there could actually end up being a state flip instead of a state loss in 2028. And so, looking at this battleground map, starting out with just the safe Republican states, I mean, Utah is going to be in that safe column. It was about a 21-point win, 21.5-point win in the previous election. Right now, on my model, it comes out to about plus 18, give or take. State of Idaho is in the Republican column. It basically is stagnant from 2024, doesn't really move at all. Wyoming is about, roughly give or take a little bit less than a point shift in Vance's favor. Montana does shift about 2 points. The Dakotas are in their spot very, very well. North Dakota actually moves a little bit to the left in this, which is interesting. South Dakota, however, does the opposite. It moves in favor of the Republican Party. Obviously, that Nebraska's second congressional district is, in that, safe Republican column as of right now. But it seems to me that there isn't really that much of a shift in the first or second congressional district. I mean, the first district, it was about a 13-point win. Here it's showing us about 14.8. And Nebraska's second actually comes out to exactly the same margin as it was in the previous cycle of Harris plus 4.7. It also comes out to like the identical margin as of right now. Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, Missouri, Indiana, and South Carolina all come out in the safe Republican column, with South Carolina even actually moving a tiny bit to the right. So, I mean, at this point, guys, like those states are moving to the right, some of them at least, or will stay kind of stagnant from 2024. We can expect that these states are going to be in the safe Republican column. I don't see why they would move unless we get, estimated registration data where like Kansas or Utah, the voter registration becomes more Democrat. Then we can expect a closer state or a closer race then. But until then, we can't really determine for sure what that race would be looking like. In the state of Alaska, you got about a 15-point win, so it moves in the Republican direction at exactly 15 points. So no real movement there towards the Democrats as of right now. Looking at the safe states for the Democrats, we can clearly see California and Washington would still be in this column, but they would move slightly Republican in 2028, according to my estimations as of right now. I have college whites shifting a little bit to the right in 2028, given Trump's positive favorables. Non-college whites, the margin stays about the same. The Republican picks up about 6 points with black voters. The Hispanic vote's basically even. It's like a toss-up, electorate. It could go either way, and the Asian/other vote basically stays about the same from 2024. That's a very elastic electorate, and so if that were to shift back, you would see very wonky results. And for simplicity, since Trump is positive favorable, we're going to leave the Asian/other vote to basically stay exactly the same from the previous cycle. We see here other safe Democrat states, Vermont, Massachusetts, Maryland. Those are also going to be, other safe Democrat states, but in Maine's first congressional district at about 22 points for for that candidate. But other than that, that's pretty much it. Besides the state of Hawaii, which is continuing to move right. I mean, it shifted 6 points Republican back in 2024, and I wouldn't be surprised if it does it again. It may be like a 15 to 25 point win for the Democrat, but it still wouldn't be in competitive territory. However, looking at the likely Republican states, Maine second would shift about 2 points to the right. Iowa, again, Ohio, these states, they basically trade margins from 2024. But the whole point is they're basically the same state. They're practically the same. Texas barely moves in either direction. Florida continues to move right. So Iowa, Ohio, Florida, and Texas, as of right now, on a battleground map, would not be competitive. Don't let anybody in 2028 tell you that these are even going to be remotely competitive, at least as of right now. I don't really see them being competitive states. Oregon, Colorado would be in the likely column. Oregon would be a 13-point win. Colorado about a 9 to 12-point win in that direction. The state has a decent Hispanic population. Obviously, if we see that voter registration trends in Democrats' direction, you're going to see a bluer Colorado, despite the popular vote getting more Republican. However, since it does have a pretty large, Hispanic population, that is where you're getting that like 9-point win in Colorado. Illinois comes in at roughly 11.5%. For the Democrat, there are a lot of college, whites and a lot of different type of voters here, and there's some suburban areas that are moving leftward enough to keep the state from, moving super into Republican hands, but we'll see how that goes. New York, again, moves to the right once more. The electorate there is a lot more minority based, especially in the New York City area, and that place has been trending so far to the right that honestly, I think it's going to continue moving that way. New York City in 20 years will end up being a battleground area, in my personal opinion. Rhode Island and Connecticut, same thing. I mean, these are going to be likely Dem states. Delaware, as of right now, kind of the same thing. New Jersey actually ends up being about just over 5 points. Again, voter registration trends in the future will definitely make that state more competitive and probably will actually keep it in single digits in 2028. If you want my personal opinion, I think in New Jersey, I kind of have a little bit of a hot take, but I think as of right now, whoever wins New Jersey probably ends up winning the election, because I expect voter registration trends in New Jersey to be so good that it'll basically be a toss-up state in 2028. So I think if the popular vote is like D+1, D+2, New Jersey will be like a D+2, D+3 state. And if the Republicans winning the popular vote, New Jersey will also kind of go alongside with them, because that working class coalition that Trump won with is going to be very crucial in 2028. And so I think that's why it's going to be very important to factor that in. And so with that said, New Hampshire, I think, is going to continue moving left. You have a lot of Boston implants, and the state has kind of become a little bit more college educated. And so it's not the same state that it was 20 years ago. I don't even think it's going to be that competitive. Maine is kind of funny, because I actually think Maine could vote to the right of New Hampshire in 2028, especially if the Republican is improving with non-college whites. You could definitely see the state of Maine vote to the right of New Hampshire in the foreseeable future. But for now, that is not where we're at exactly. And we come down to some of these states. Nevada and Arizona, I honestly think with the Hispanic vote being a toss-up electorate, like it basically being 50-50, that means that by default, Republicans would be doing better in Hispanic areas. And so Nevada and Arizona would actually move Republican and wouldn't really even be that competitive at all. I think Clark County in 2028 would probably be a Republican behemoth, at least a 2 to 4 point win. And Washoe County would probably do the same. So I don't even think Nevada would be on the table for the Democrats as of right now. And Arizona, I think, would actually do the opposite of what everybody's been thinking of it doing. And it actually will continue to move right due to that Hispanic vote shift in this election cycle. And clearly, you have, certain states where they're kind of in, the 3 to 4 point category as of right now. I think that looking at this, this is your actual battleground map in 2028. Now, Virginia, yes, is a left trending state, but it did shift Republican enough where it is questionable the way the state's going. I mean, they elected a Republican governor in 2021. He's very popular there. And depending on how the governorship goes this year and Trump providing good results, maybe, some of those, government workers leave the state of Virginia, which has been making it a Democrat stronghold in recent years. I actually think that that can make the state more competitive, especially if the black vote is moving to the right. That could actually totally change the demography of how the state's been working for the past couple of years, especially if somebody like a Vance kind of does a little bit better with college whites. You'd probably see Virginia shift like a point or two to the right. So I'd say maybe, Virginia is in that lean, Democrat column. Minnesota has not flipped, in the Republican column in forever. The model basically shows it staying at about the same, even though the popular vote shifts like 2 points to the right from the last cycle. And so I don't even think that that would be a winnable state at all for, I don't even think that'd be a winnable state for the GOP, at least as of right now. I don't think it would be. Maybe voter registration looks good. Who knows? But that's where I kind of see the state of Minnesota, end up taking place. And I think that in North Carolina, I right now the model has it as over a 4-point win. And so even though it technically doesn't move as much to the right as the nation does, I still think it's going to be, a hard state for Democrats to end up picking off. I really do think it is. I think it's going to be one of those harder states for the Democrats to win in the foreseeable future, because the state has just been getting redder with voter registration trends. And you do have the Triangle Research Area, but I think it's still not enough for the state to end up flipping blue. And so that leaves you with 5 toss-up states: Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, and New Mexico would effectively be your toss-up states. And when you look at the Democrats, since they've been, hemorrhaging, these type of working class voters, they're the ones who have the steep path to the presidency, because they have to pick up Georgia more than likely with those Atlanta trends, hold on to New Mexico, and then go ahead and win a couple of the Rust Belt states. They'd probably have to pick off Pennsylvania more than likely if they'd have any luck, but they'd have to win a majority of the swing states left over at that point. They'd have to run the table and end up picking off multiple states. Even just winning, I even think winning Michigan wouldn't even be enough. Like, if they were to win all 3 Rust Belt states, it still wouldn't even be enough, because New Mexico would have to go for them to just barely get to 70. Meanwhile, the Republican would only have to pick off Pennsylvania and basically call it a day, or get like Wisconsin and New Mexico and be very close, or get, Georgia and basically be at 268, pick up New Mexico, or get Wisconsin and win. Like, there's so many viable paths for the Republican to end up winning the election in 2028 that it's kind of, the Democrats are in a bad spot, and they've put themselves in the bad spot. And I don't want to make it seem like I'm being biased here with the party composition, but the Republicans are taking voters that traditionally Democrats would be doing very well with, and Donald Trump has kind of solidified a lot of voters. Not all of the new voters, but a decent amount of them has solidified them in the Republican camp. And so is Iowa going to be R plus 13 in 2028? I don't know about that. I mean, it could be a lot closer. It could be redder. It depends on who the candidates are. If Vance is on the ballot, it just really depends on who the Democrat is and what the national environment that year is going to be. Because if, minority voters kind of shift back blue, you're going to see New York, Illinois, Colorado be a lot bluer. But like if non-college whites shift more red than 2024, you're not going to really see Iowa or Ohio move that much more back into the Democrat column. So it's going to be a really interesting year to see how like all of these, states end up taking shape, in 2028. But I think as of right now, your 5 battleground states are New Mexico, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. If you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe if you want more content just like this. And I will see you guys in the next video.